What's up? I'm Prentiss, and you're watching the Lunch Hour podcast.
All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. We got our first ever reoccurring guest on today. I'm here joined by Prentiss. Prentiss, what's up, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Been like a year since the last podcast.
That's right,
A good bit has changed. But I'm excited to get this started.
Yeah, me too. We've been talking about it for a while, trying to get us back together, but we finally got it worked out. Yeah, like you said, lots have changed for both of us as well. I mean, when you and I recorded a little bit over a year ago, we did it on Zoom, and you were like just about to turn 14, I think, when that happened. So you were still 13. How old are you right now?
15.
And you turned 16 when?
In February.
Damn. That's crazy. Still don't even have a driver's license.
No. I have to have a parent in the car when I'm driving around, but it's all right.
Which is kind of funny when you think about everything that you're doing, and it's like, dude, like, man can't even like drive a car yet, or legally he's got to have his parents to drive with him.
I mean, honestly, it's funny, and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, damn, I can't drive.
Yeah. But
I see all these other artists, they can't even get their driver's license.
Yeah.
Like Cardi B's like 22, has like 8 cars and no driver's license. So I'm like, I'll be all right if I can't get my driver's license for another few months.
And a lot's changed. Like, it's lots changed for both of us. You've gotten older, sound different, look different, everything's different, but obviously in a good way. And I guess since the last time that you and I talked, you've been pretty busy, at least from what I've seen. Last time I checked, when we were together, you had 50,000 on Instagram, and now it's up to 75,000 now, I think. And Spotify's at like, I want to say 30. It was like 33,000, I think, monthly listeners. So I just want to talk about what it's been like over the past year and what's been going on for you.
So the best part about the last year is just like the stable growth of a fan base, because I feel like the last time we had a podcast, I was kind of putting music out there, but not understanding like how to get fans, how to connect to people, like how to get into certain groups, how to maneuver, how to target your music towards certain audiences. So I've really spent this last year really learning, and there's a lot to learn. There's so much music nowadays that, like, if you're just a listener, you can go click through 3,000, 4,000 artists, and they all around my size. So it's really just been a battle of like staying different and still consistent at the same time. Yeah,
and you said that you're still kind of learning, and when I go back and I listen to, I told you earlier before we started how when I was prepping for this, how I was kind of listening to a lot of the older stuff, and I noticed that it's kind of I want to say like the sound of it's kind of changed a little bit. Like you were telling me that the older stuff you were just trying to make as catchy as possible, because that's what drives people to listen to a song. But I just wanted to ask if you think your music has gotten better over the years, if you think that it's changed, because for me, when I did my first podcast, I like to think that my first podcast sucks, because I like to think that, the first thing that you do with something, whether it's a song or a podcast or whatever, it's really not going to be the best. But not saying that, your old music is bad at all, but as you grow and do it more, you learn you always get better at it. Because when I've always done bad podcasts, they've always improved later in the future. So I just wanted to get your take on that.
So yeah, I think that's to answer the first question. Personally, I do think I've improved in music, not towards like sound, because I think art's really a thing where it's so subjective, especially nowadays when there's music that's literally just noise. Yeah. Music that I listen to that's literally just noise that's out of key. So it is very subjective, but from what it means to me and like lyrics wise and like the quality and the time that I put into my music, I feel like it definitely has had a drastic improvement, especially since I guess like the last time, only like a year ago, but the last time I did this podcast, I was kind of just throwing stuff down, which is like a very cool way of doing art. That's how most painters do it. That's how most, like, even writers, they'll just throw down a bunch of their ideas. But over the last year, I've been trying to, make it more structured and give it more of a, sound that I like.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting because normally when you kind of want to start off with something like that, you kind of just have like a set plan on what to do, and you're kind of just experimenting in a bunch of other different things. And I think that's pretty cool because, like I said, that's kind of what I was doing. And in terms of like your thought process on music, because I remember you told me that when you first started that it was just kind of for fun, and you were just kind of doing it to screw around, get in front of a microphone, just kind of see what you could do. But now it looks like you're in it for the long run. So, and I totally believe that you are. And so, and it seems like you've been getting more and more creative with your sound, and your music videos that I've watched visually, like it's all over the place, which is in a good way. Like it was like I Will Wait music video, like how it kind of was on a small little camera or like on a little MacBook, and then just cuts into the whole music video. So I just want to see what kind of like your thought process is when it comes to making music or putting out pretty cool music videos.
So it's really, in a weird way, I would almost say become more fun, like being more involved. Obviously, it's harder, and not every aspect of it is fun. But when I finish the song, or I finish the idea for a video, or just something along those lines, I always feel like enjoyment that I don't feel in any other fields of life. Yeah, and it used to be like that. I would say back like a year ago, the more aspect of just like making a song in an hour and coming out with it. It was fun, but not as fulfilling as it is now.
Yeah, I totally understand that. So over the years, I mean, you've been doing, at least over the past year, you've been performing. I know you've done a couple shows in Jackson, which I think is pretty cool, obviously, to perform in your hometown and to kind of see, when you look out in the crowd, you probably see people that you know. So I just wanted to get into what you've been doing recently. So I'm getting into the music stuff. So you've done some pretty cool collaborations with Lil Aaron. I'm not necessarily a music expert, but from what my producer has told me, he's like the guy. In terms of like writing and producing and stuff. And he's came on your most popular, at least one of my favorite songs, Seasons. So just kind of see what it's been like to kind of get into better connections with people, I guess, with other like artists, because I was scrolling through who follows you on Instagram, and it's pretty remarkable who I've been seeing, like Bieber and was it Charlie XCX who it was? Yeah, Charlie XCX and Skrillex, which I think that's pretty awesome because I grew up loving Skrillex. So I just want to see what's it been like to kind of what it's been like to just kind of elevate from what you were based off of what you are now.
I mean, it's really cool. I mean, I do feel like, again, nothing too much has changed. I've never been like, that's probably what I have a weak spot of. There they come. I might have to run that back.
It's fine. We can keep it in. We can be as natural.
We'll
be as natural as possible.
Sorry.
We'll be as natural. I don't even have. We can just leave this in. I think it's kind of funny. We can just be naturally as possible. Hey, how you doing?
Thank you. They had the whole setup. It's sick.
Yeah. I really want to leave that. I just kind of want to be natural. So keep going. I'm sorry.
So basically, I would say one of the weak spots I have, to be honest, would be like collaborations, because I've been so head in of like, oh, this is my music. I'm gonna make it my music, and I'm gonna try to. I don't want anyone else pointing it in a different direction. Yeah. That first Lil Aaron collab kind of opened a new aspect for me, because when I used to think about like people writing, I used to think about ghostwriting. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. People that just get handed a sheet of paper and a beat and is like, record this. And honestly, as someone that values writing and values the production aspect of it, I don't really like those type of people, if I'm being honest. Like, I don't like the people that are just giving everything they have and all they have to do is perform. Obviously, if you have a really nice voice, that makes sense. But I didn't have too nice of a voice. What I learned with Lil Aaron is that it's less of a like handing over, it's more of like a collaboration. Yeah. So I'd like write a hook and he'd change like one or two words to make it fit better. He almost was more worried about how it musically sounded. He's like, if you take out and or it's, it fits better into this bar. And I was like, I never really thought about it like that. So that session really changed how I thought about music.
Yeah. Yeah, I liked what you said about like the writing aspect and kind of like focusing on like I don't know how you are like I'm sure you write pretty much most of your songs.
Yeah, that Season song was the only song I've ever had like another writer in the studio with me.
In terms of like writing, because I dabble in a little bit of writing. I do like a journal every now and then, and I'm trying to start writing like a script for a movie or something. I'm kind of in the middle of that, which that's obviously like pretty hard. But yeah, I like the idea. I like that about writing because you will kind of want to just stick to yourself, because I totally understand that, because you kind of want to keep things your way.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many artists just get kind of drug into that, especially kid artists, because they're like, "Oh, you're 15, you don't know how to write."
Yeah,
and realistically, I don't. Like, I'm not writing like these other people are writing. Like, there's so many things Lil Aaron was talking about.
Yeah.
I was like, why the hell do you even think about it?
Yeah.
Way? But I mean, I've seen like people my age just been taken into the industry and just a bunch of lyrics that don't make sense or not true to them. So yeah, I'm just trying to stick with like what's always been my passion, and it's really writing.
So you started doing this, and you started doing music when you were probably 13 years? It was probably around when you first started.
Started around like 11.
Yeah. But like it really started to take off when you were around 13, 14, when Barstool posted that video for October, which is, would you say that's one of your most like popular songs since like, because you said I was on a live, one of your Instagram lives, the one where you let me join, which that was pretty fun. Somebody said like Prentiss is famous because they're playing his music at H&M. So like, what would you say in terms of like popularity of songs? Like, because I remember when I was at the Egg Bowl in Oxford it was like 2 years ago. I was walking to my seat and I heard October playing over the loud PA system. Yeah. And I sent you that video. Yeah. And I was like, dude, they're playing October in Vaught Hemingway Stadium.
Yeah, no, there's songs number wise, money wise, stuff like that are bigger. Yeah. But there's nothing that's as cool as October.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's like it's one of the classics.
Where I was a 13-year-old. Yeah. Just doing fuck off. Yeah. For lack of a better word. Yeah. Like I was just like writing and like I said, just making catchy hooks, and then bang, Barstool repost where it, like literally shot right back here where I shot the music video, and they repost it. And I get a bunch of Barstool fans, which is the coolest people ever. And that kind of led into like the Egg Bowl and stuff like that. So it was a lot of hype, and that kind of helped me like learn like how to go around stuff like that and to avoid it and work on music. But there is again other songs like I Will Wait that have more streams. I Will Wait actually just hit 1 million.
Yeah, I actually had that written down.
So that was cool to see, and that's like the songs being played in H&M, but I mean, realistically, I'm especially for this album coming up and the songs I've released recently, I'm trying to go back to that October stuff.
Yeah, kind of
like almost have a cult classic, things people jump to at shows. Like I'm not really worried about a pop banger that gets played in H&M.
What would you say is kind of like your style of music? Because when I look at it, I kind of obviously, like I said, I'm not like a music expert, but with like I would think it's kind of like a hip hop / like a R&B type thing, because it's not like a trap beat where it's just like boom, like that sort of thing. It's kind of just like a silky, like smooth kind of thing. So I just wanted to see what you thought like your style of music was.
It's really been all over the place recently. The last 2 songs I released are rock, and I would say that's probably like my most consistent style. But I mean, I'm a big believer of you don't have to stick to like a certain genre. So I've been doing a lot of folk music, a lot of country music, a lot of just random stuff that matches the words that I'm saying. Yeah. Basically, like I try to get a theme, what I'm going to say, and then I try to find instrumentals off that and not try to go certain towards one genre. Because I feel like certain type of music doesn't fit like a certain type of mood. Like I feel like there's too many people forcing themselves to make hip hop music when they're talking about like, not stuff like that, or like people forcing themselves to make country music when they're not in the same tone. So I've kind of messed around with a lot of different genres.
Would you say that like your taste in music is pretty diverse? Like in terms of like what you listen to on the daily? That's
what kind of throws my music off, and like the reason I do so many different genres. Because, I mean, I'll listen to people like the Beatles and then Blink-182 and then just like crazy niche underground rap artists like Destroy Lonely or like just I listen to a lot of Sturgill Simpson, just a bunch of random stuff, and then I'll listen to Charlie XCX. That's a big one because that's like I don't know too many people that listen to country music and Charlie XCX in the same playlist. Yeah. So I take a lot of pride from that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like to chime in on that because I like to think that my music taste is like one of the most like diverse tastes. I'll show you because so I just recently found like a violin cover of Nothing Else Matters by Metallica. So like
you've been bumping that on Spotify.
Yeah, I sent a video to Trey earlier. I was listening to it, and so like it's weird because like here's like my Spotify. So it goes like the violin cover, then it's like 3 songs from that new Metro Boomin album. It's a lot of rap, but then like it goes into like Pink Floyd songs, and it goes to Elvis, and then it goes like to Kanye, and then it goes back to Elvis. So I like to think it's pretty diverse, and like I'm a huge like instrumental guy. Like one of my top genres on my Spotify rap this year was like soundtrack stuff, like music soundtrack stuff. And I love that. I love like my diversity and how it's so deep with that. And that's why I can kind of really listen to anything. Just the one genre that I don't necessarily have a problem with, but it's just something like, it's just like country music. Like I don't really listen to a whole lot of country. I mean, a couple like, like the normals, like Morgan Wallen or like Kenny Chesney, like the classic guys. That's pretty much it. But other than that, it's pretty much everything. Like I got like a playlist for like, I have an instrumental playlist. I got like a old hip hop, like 90s hip hop playlist. And so yeah, my music taste is pretty diverse too, and I think that's pretty interesting because we
gotta get you on that country music.
Exactly.
We gotta get you right. Sturgill Simpson, Chris Stapleton, all of them.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm open. Like, so I listen to. So when it comes to country music, I would say my go-to guys like Morgan Wallen. I know that's like so like generic, but like I mean, it's pretty much all I kind of want to dabble into. And then obviously my mother grew up. When I grew up, my mother played a lot of country music, so I knew a bunch of like old like Jason Aldean songs and Kenny Chesney and Chris Stapleton, and there's a bunch of guys that I've been listening to. But I wanted to talk about. So I wrote down, that I Will Wait is my favorite music video that you have. And I just want to talk about like, what was kind of like going into filming that. I was like, what was kind of the process of going into making a music video like that?
Honestly, that was kind of one of the first music videos I shot without Aiden. It was such a nightmare. Yeah. Like the director was amazing. Yeah. The shoot was amazing. The cast was amazing. Everything was set up perfectly, but I've never been like a dude that's like been into like I wouldn't say it wasn't like super high budget, but just like high produced and like, so like seeing actors there and stuff threw me off completely, but it came out really well, I thought, and it looked sick. But I mean, the only thing I regret is just how nervous I looked. Because going back, I'd take that opportunity any day. It fit the song perfectly. I don't know why I wanted to be in like the trees singing and stuff like that. Yeah. But it was a really weird video for me to shoot at the time. But when I finally got it back, I was like, yeah, this is sick. Yeah. And looking back on it, it's just such sick.
You talked about the production, and that it's a very high production video. Like you said, it's got a whole like cast, like with the school bus and all that. Like there's a whole group of people that are all involved in that one video. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And one thing I thought was pretty funny was the Benny Blanco cameo in one of those. I don't remember which video. Do you remember which?
The running back video.
Running back video. Yeah. I thought that because he's I think he's hilarious, and so I was kind of what was like working with a guy like him and telling you that your breath smelled like Doritos.
It was really funny scene to shoot. That scene actually took like 25 shots.
Really?
He's an actor. Yeah. I mean, like I kind of forgot going into it that he was an actor, but he's like a full-on actor. So he was completely outdoing me. I didn't really know what to do in the scene, so I was kind of acting puzzled every time, but we naturally got into it, and he was a really funny dude on set. Yeah. He's exactly how he is on the internet, just like always saying out of pocket shit, and just like being Benny Blanco. Yeah,
his when you look at like his social media stuff, he's very out of pocket, and so like it sounded like it was pretty fun working with a guy like that, especially with what he's done. I know he's worked with. Would you say that he's more of like you said he's more of like an actor now than like, because I know he used to more of like what a producer, was it? Yeah, he was like a mega producer back then, like, because I know he did a song for Juice WRLD, and he said he's more of like an actor. So, like, do you know anything about that, or like anything that he's doing?
So he is doing a lot of cool stuff. Right now he's doing a chef thing with someone, I don't know exactly, but does that show with Lil Dicky. If you've ever seen that. I don't watch a ton of TV, but I just know he's a really talented guy when it comes from that, which is funny because 10 years ago, this is probably when I was like 5, so I don't remember it this well, so I'm speaking out of like what I've heard about the guy. Wrote every big record. Like, you know, I mean, 2011, kind of all the big pop records kind of had the same sound to it. It's because they were all written by Benny Blanco.
Yeah.
Like, all the Katy Perry songs, like all the, I can't put my finger on an exact artist, but like, Kesha, the whole radio back then was controlled by one curly-haired dude. And I was like, this is sick. Yeah. He's a really sick dude. And now I think he literally is just acting because I think he still does music, but it seems like he almost did too much in music. Yeah. Like, he got it all done. So now he's on to acting.
Yeah. His TikTok's pretty funny when they did that whole, like, series of, like, him and Charlie Puth kind of, like, going at it. I know that was all just for TikTok or whatever, but I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, no, that was good. I think that stuff like that's so well planned. Yeah. Because Charlie Puth had that light switch, and then that popped off. Yeah. It's like, there's a lot of drama that's planned.
Yeah. So, in terms of like your music and how I like to think that it's very creative, and when you work with these very creative people, like you said, Aiden Maddox, who is a hometown hero with us. So what's it been like to work with guys like him and Matt Ox, who I remember when Matt Ox made that one like banger or Overwhelmed, that first song that came out like when he was like 12 years old. And I listened to that song with you and him today. And I was just getting, what's it been like to work with guys like that? Like you can throw in Lil Aaron in there as well, to kind of work with some guys who have been in that valley for so long and have kind of have a lot of experience that can benefit you as well.
It's always a great thing. I always come out of the session a much better artist, and a lot of times like a lot more clear, more positive view on the industry that I was headed towards. Matt Ox was a big prominent example of that. Like he always gave me like lessons and stuff, and like he was kind of in my same spot. Yeah, like a lot bigger, but he was like 12 with like the Overwhelming song, and then he got that X song, which has like 400, 500 million views. Yeah. Like he has a radio pop song. And so he's been through the ringer at a very young age. Yeah. So he taught me a lot, and his mom actually talked to my mom too. Because my mom was kind of scared of the industry as well. So they had a few dinners and they're friends and they text. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to piggyback off that because you talked about like, because, you know, when you're in the industry with like that, I mean, like you said, he was 12 when he kind of started to pop off, and you were around 13, 14 when you started to pop off, and kind of when that whole era kind of sets in, and when your phone's constantly buzzing with followers and DMs and stuff. So kind of at a young age was kind of see what's it been like to kind of, because, you know, I was looking at the GQ article and like the topic was, you know, what's it like to have a record deal at 14 and to have Justin Bieber as a fan? Like, what's it kind of been like to kind of start off at a young age, and how it can prepare you for as you grow up and as you get older?
I think a lot of stuff that happened, I took the wrong way and sent me in a complete wrong direction. Like, I think around that time I made I Will Wait, I was completely just have no idea how to work the internet. Kind of, you know, did some stuff before, but had no idea how to respond to people. I was like just like a fish in the middle of the sea. Like, I was just kind of thrown out there, and it was cool. It was fun, but I didn't really enjoy the aspect of like blowing up, if you will. And I wouldn't really say it blowing up. It's just like what happens on the internet nowadays, especially in the TikTok age where everything's so fast, is you'll get a day or two where you do have that. You have your phone buzzing every single second. And then you'll have months after that to where you don't even have that same amount of buzzing that you would have in that one day. So I had to go through a couple of those to realize that none of that shit mattered. I mean, it's the corniest thing you hear from artists because you're like, damn, you have all these likes and all these follows and you care about the music. It really is.
Yeah.
Like, you really have to care about the music aspect at the end of the day. You care about your fans, but you also can't give exactly what they want.
Right.
You know, like, as an artist, you're the creative. You know what's best for yourself. So you can't be given into what the internet likes about you or what the internet dislikes about you.
Right.
I did find that helping me a lot in some of the musical aspects to where, like, you know, some shit I was singing out of key.
Yeah.
My writing was all over the place. So the constructive criticism helped. But when I was looking at the hate and trying to make music, I was making the most generic bullshit.
Yeah.
So it was just like, you can't look at it all.
Yeah, and in terms of with like dealing with like hate like that, because obviously that's going to come one way or another, and with a lot of people that can kind of really get in their heads in terms of like oh, like everyone's saying that my music is garbage or whatever, and they're saying it's bad, and it's like, and like if they're all saying it's bad, like how can I put more out if they're all saying it's bad? And I guess with you, in starting at a young age, and with people, you know, saying like, oh, this kid's like 12 years, 13 years old, you know, how is he making this kind of music? So in terms of kind of dealing with hate, I was kind of going to get your point of view on whenever that does come your way, like what's kind of your process in dealing with that? Now
it's just, I mean, don't respond. Don't take it to the head. Just a random person on the internet.
Yeah.
Not a random person in the internet to where, like, I think a lot of artists talk about, oh, that dude that hated on me, he doesn't have any value. Why would I listen to him? It's the singer. Like, that artist has the same amount of value as the hater. The haters just probably usually either thinks he knows more than he does, or he had a bad day and he's just trolling. And when you see comments that are just straight hate, no constructive criticism, that's the end of the story. Like, it's someone that had a bad day. A lot of times it's artists. It's kind of sad. It's artists with 600, 700 followers that are trying their best to make music, trying their best to pop off, and they see a 14-year-old with a record deal. Kind of, you know, almost handed to me. Yeah. Which is like something I can admit. And I mean, I had music out before and stuff like that. But there is people that work 10, 15 years to make music and have never been hit up by a label. So I see that aspect. You just have to learn the difference between constructive criticism and hate. Take the constructive criticism and throw out the hate. It's like recycling. You take the garbage and you throw the cans into the recycling.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good analogy, because I guess there's a huge difference between, you know, constructive criticism and actual hate, because I get constructive criticism all the time in terms of, you know, what I need to do with my show, in terms of, you know, who I need to get on or whatever. And I think when you talk about the hate, and when you talk about people leaving comments and saying that, you know, and this is just kind of my way of thinking about it, is because like you said, you know, people have been working on music for over 15 years and have had zero contact with a record label. And I think one of the main reasons why people kind of go into that is because that, you know, you're doing it and they aren't. And I think that's kind of a reason why the hate kind of sets in like that, is because that it's not like jealousy in a way, but I guess it's kind of a way of them thinking like, oh, like, who's this young guy, you know, who he may not even know what he's doing, but yet he's still got, you know, a record deal, and he's going out to LA and doing these shows and filming with all these artists. And I think that's definitely more of a way of just people, of those haters, just kind of just like, well, you know, he's doing it and I'm not, so I'm gonna, you know, kind of chime in and just kind of throw some shade at him, and just kind of, you know, kind of just not kind of put you down, but obviously it shouldn't, because, you know, it's like user 20, you know, bunch of numbers is saying that your voice is bad, you know, but like, you don't need, you know, obviously that kind of thing is just,
and a lot of it is like very musical opinions, like very using the word opinion strong. Like, I got a lot of comments to where that section of where my phone was buzzing and like my stuff was getting posted and about the music. And some of it was like, this is way too generic. And the others was like, he's doing too much. Like, where is it? Where's the middle? And it really is just like, again, art is very opinionated and stuff. And especially if it's another artist that's been doing something for 15 years, it's completely different. Hey, look, there's some artists that I look at and I'm like, damn, how do they do it? But then I sit down and kind of have a moment of realization that, like, there's people out there that really do enjoy that music, and they're doing a great job getting it to them.
So in terms of like like people who just kind of build you up and kind of help you to keep going, keep doing what you're doing? Because obviously this is your job now. I mean, this is what you do. I mean, this is what we're doing right now is what I'm trying to do. And obviously it's a process. And so what kind of keeps you going from just like, oh man, I keep, this might just be, what you're thinking. It's like, oh man, this music's not good, or I don't think the song's that well. It's, I guess, like procrastination is kind of a big thing for me at least, because if, one thing doesn't look right in the podcast or in a show, I'm like, well, I'm just going to scrap it and not do it, because, and so I just wanted to see kind of what gets you and kind of what keeps you going every day from just saying, I'm just going to quit this and just try something else.
Yeah, no, procrastination's really my biggest enemy, especially in music, because there is a lot of artists that can procrastinate, and you really can procrastinate, given you won't have the same, stuff happen to you, but you can procrastinate, and it doesn't hurt right away. It just hurts you over time. So I had to learn, like around the same time I learned to take that hate in, that I need to consistently do music without burning myself out. Because again, I'm still really young.
Yeah.
I'm still doing school half the time. Like I'm still talking to friends. Like it's still really fun to me. So I try to do as much music as I can without burning myself out. And when I burn myself out, I think that's really when the procrastination comes. It's like a double-edged sword. So when I burn myself out and making too much music, then I'm like, damn, I need to take a break. And it's a 2-month break.
Yeah.
And it ruins me. And I'm growing as a person, but not growing as an artist because I'm procrastinating making a song. So I had to learn to just keep it at a steady, balanced rate, workflow-wise.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting in terms of getting burned out, because a lot of artists can do that, like obviously there's some artists that were really huge back in the day, like my biggest example for that, for people who get burned out, is Fetty Wap. I mean, Fetty Wap was so massive back in the day when he had
song after song.
Yeah, exactly.
Hitting,
and then like just no one heard from him for a straight what do you need him to do? Yeah, pull it closer. Like kind of like for a man who was just like on top of the world for like years, and then all of a sudden he's just like straight silence from him. So I wanted to get your take on kind of what do you think makes artists, you hear the term fall off, like, oh, he fell off, or like, what do you think kind of makes an artist kind of do that in terms of falling off?
I think giving into the hate, not even just giving into the hate, but giving into the positivity. I think with an artist, too much positivity is probably probably the most negative thing you can give them, especially a young up and coming artist. Because with music, it's really with everything, but music's a great example of it. You're always going to get better. You're always going to make new stuff that's different. You don't need to be making the same music, and try to push it out. So he got a lot of positivity. He wasn't really a guy that got too much negativity. Yeah. I don't even think people dislike Fetty Wap to this day.
Yeah, like I never hear any negativity about it, to be honest.
So, that was really the issue. There's artists that you hear that have too much negativity that fall off because they're just under the pressure. But a lot of these, like, rappers or, like, 2-year artists or, like, people that didn't have too much big of a prime, they just gave way too much into the positivity and never changed up their music, or they just gave too much into lifestyle. Yeah. Like, as much as people talk about it, if you give into that lifestyle, if you live in LA for years and you're going out every week and you're meeting all different types of girls, you're not gonna be on the right path. Yeah. Work-wise.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
It's like being in a college frat and making music. It's like, doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And that's kind of just what kind of flows with your statement with how you're kind of changing your style all the time, because obviously some people can get burned out of just one specific style. Me in general, because I just remember like a couple months ago, I was just like listening to like my music, and I was just like, damn, I'm like really tired of this. Like I need something new. And then obviously Drake came out with Her Loss, and I was very, very excited for that to come out. Because I've been a huge Drake fan pretty much most of my life. But yeah, I think kind of staying involved and kind of just keeping your head up, I guess, is the main thing to kind of shy away from all that hate, because it's going to happen one way or another.
Yeah, it's the internet. Is like, I don't get why people act like they're just going to post music. People are going to love it.
Yeah. because obviously not everybody's gonna love what you put out. I mean, because and that's just the way it goes. But at some point, you just gotta realize, you just gotta tell yourself, like, this is what I'm doing. Fuck what everybody else thinks about what I'm gonna do. This is my music. This is my genre. This is what I'm gonna do. So I guess just kind of staying true to yourself is a kind of a good way to do that. So I wanted to ask about. So I told you that you've been performing at shows. So the one that really caught my eye was performing at Lollapalooza, because Lollapalooza is obviously a huge music festival in Chicago. There's been tons of names. I mean, obviously a lot of the mainstream, like Travis and Migos and those huge guys have all played there. So I was want to get your take on what's it been like to, I guess now that COVID is not gone, but like, live stuff has been able to come back and been able to do live shows, and which is perfect, which is kind of in the perfect timing for you. I guess obviously you were in that COVID period when stuff was starting, and then now that it's kind of moved on and you get to perform at more live shows, and you've done Lollapalooza, Hal and Mal's, a couple other venues in Jackson, I'm sure. We'll just kind of see what's it been like to finally been able to perform live in front of an audience.
I think it's been really a changing moment for me as an artist. Like, it's a different ball game once you get up there and start trying to perform to people, because once you get up there, your personality isn't going to save. Your funny look on Instagram isn't going to save you. Your antics, who you're associated with, whose brother you are, you're the son of, it doesn't matter when you get on stage. Yeah. Especially at festivals like these, people are looking for good music. So, my first festival, I was really lucky to have it earlier. It was an emo night. It was like their first coming off of COVID. And I went into that and I loved it, but it really had me changing like what type of music I was making and like how I would perform. So now for every show, like Lollapalooza, we did like 3 rehearsals. I made sure I had a guitarist and a drummer to just make the live atmosphere as best as I can, because it's just as much as an art as making the music itself. I would like to use the analogy of like, there's a lot of people that like on YouTube that do like basketball videos and like show off their crossovers and show off their cool little dunks and all that stuff. They get killed in an NBA game. Yeah. Or just like pick up with any good players. Like they get killed in that. So live shows are really where your music gets tested. And I feel like for those 2 years during COVID when artists were popping off, it was really unhealthy for them, because they were, getting song after song blowing up, but they weren't performing it live. And when they finally performed it live, there was no energy. Right. So I had to learn how to like go along with what I was doing in the live shows. And
obviously, in terms of being a performer, you kind of, at least this is how I've been. I don't classify myself as a performer, but like you give me a microphone in front of a couple thousand people, I'm gonna be perfectly fine. I don't know why it is, but like I know some people have like that problem with like stage fright and with being in front of an audience, and I've never been that way before, because there's a funny story. When I was probably about 4 or 5 years old. I was at church, and for some reason, I walked down to the front of the church in front of like 600 people and just started singing like some nursery rhyme in front of everybody. And so, and I guess like, and it just kind of carried on, because I spoke at my mom's wedding 2 years ago. I mean, it's just like and like other people are like, I can never get up in front of an audience and do that. I'm just like, how? Like, how can you not do that?
I know. I mean, that's most people too. Funny. You talk about the church story. Yeah. I had a church story too. I don't know if it has anything to do with how I am on stage, but I was like maybe 6 or 7 too. I couldn't have been that old. I might have been younger. There was a chapel. Like a group of kids that practice on Wednesdays and sang at the main church. I didn't practice on Wednesdays. I didn't know who those kids were. Yeah. I just saw a bunch of kids running up to the stage, and I was like, they look like they're my age. I'm gonna go join them. So I join them. No one knows that I'm not supposed to be there. I'm kind of in the front. Everyone starts singing. I have no idea what a lyric is or anything. It probably looks so funny. I wish there was a video of it. But that was a really funny moment for me. But when it came to like, performing on stage, I'm the same way. And I would almost say that like what I have and what you have is almost more of like a mental illness.
Yeah.
Because most of the people don't have it. Like a good 90% of people are like, no, I don't want to be on stage. And we're like, heck yeah, give us a mic. We'll, do a stand-up comedy set in front of like 7,000 people. And I do think it's just something in our brain that there's something in most people's brain that blocks them from being able to do that. But I feel exactly like you. Like I feel very free when I go out and do shows or like talk in front of people or like go on a podcast or something like that.
Yeah, and when I have people on, when I have guests on, obviously every guest that I've had has kind of felt pretty normal with doing it, but. Obviously you have a few of those guests that are just, they're a little nervous, and because, and the idea of being in front of a camera or the idea of watching or having a podcast and knowing that there's going to be people seeing this it's kind of frightening to them, which is the opposite for me because I love being seen by people, which is the reason why I'm doing this. I love, I like people to see me and do me listen to what I do. And I would say that a lot of like the idea of people going on stage is frightening. I would say it's more of like an embarrassment type thing. It's like, what if I go? Yeah, it's like, well, what if I go on stage, or like, what if my pants fall down, and everyone's looking at me in my underwear? It's like then everyone's gonna be laughing at you. It's
just that's always a bad mindset to have. Like anxiety is gonna ruin you in a podcast or being on stage. Or like, there's been times where I'm anxious and it's affected my performance, like affected how what notes I'm hitting and stuff, and I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah.
That I'm performing worse because I'm anxious, but it really has a lot to do with how you're feeling beforehand.
Yeah, I would say a lot of that also goes into more of like a confidence thing, like because what I do is for me to kind of get, because obviously I'm not nervous every time I do a podcast, but I'm just I'm not loose enough. So like before Trey came over to my house today, I was listening. I had like music bumping in, like I have like a surround sound system in my house, and so I was like bumping like music just to kind of get loose because obviously not every time I'm gonna be loose every time. So I kind of try to make sure that I'm I don't do any like vocal exercises or anything to get warmed up or anything, but I'm just kind of get into like a loose feel that like, oh, I'm ready to sit down with somebody and talk for a minute. So and I think that's pretty interesting because like obviously with the podcast, doing live shows is something that I'd like to do. I know that some people have done it, and so I'd like to do it as well at some point. And so when you go on, like before you go on stage, like is there any kind of like I guess I don't want to call it like rituals, but like anything that you do before you go on stage to kind of just get you into that mindset that I'm about to go on stage and perform in front of a bunch of people.
Yeah, vocal exercises. Yeah. Funny you bring it up. I do a lot of vocal exercises. I don't know how much they help, but very good placebo, if I'm being honest, because it just stretches your voice. I don't even know if that's a real thing.
Yeah.
But every time I do vocal exercises to where like I'm not doing vocal exercises, I do a lot better.
Yeah.
I try to stay pretty calm. I try to stay off my phone, stay off what the internet's saying. I don't want anything in my brain. I have to make sure I'm getting all my breaks. I'm getting enough water. I use the restroom. I want like nothing in my mind when I'm on stage other than, what I'm performing. And, sometimes you can't always control that, but I do enough before I get everything done so that I can perform.
So obviously you and I, we're both from Jackson. So, and if people have been paying attention to what Jackson's become, it's just kind of a mess right now in terms of everything that's been going on. And for me, it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. Obviously, it's where we grew up, but then you look at what's been going on, and it's like, man, like robberies all the time, water systems going bad, and if anything does happen with the show, which I love that, I'd kind of would like to help out, and that's kind of what I kind of noticed that with you, and kind of with performing in all these venues around Jackson, and obviously we've got a couple of local artists ourselves, like Pothole Paradise, which I know those guys pretty well. Some of them worked for me over the summer last year. So it's just kind of what's it kind of been like for you to kind of look on the hometown situation and kind of see how any way you could kind of help out.
So I've actually growing up, I didn't love Jackson, which was weird. Right. Probably like the first 13 years of my life, I wanted to get out. I wanted I didn't like it at all. Like, I thought there was no positives. Now I'm almost the complete opposite.
Yeah.
It's a lot of positives. Like, again, there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of struggles, but it breeds incredible art. There's a lot of people with incredible heart.
Yeah.
Like, when you go out to LA, yeah, shit's cool, shit's alright.
Yeah.
But, like, there's a lot of people that are just, like, depressed, you know, not happy, fulfilling their life, and just, like, mad at the rest of the world. Like, I feel like Jackson's so crazy because it's just a lot of happy people. Like, a lot of, like, people that are excited to live the next day in a city where, you know, a month ago you couldn't even drink water from the tap.
Yeah.
For, like, helping Jackson and stuff like that, I definitely want to grow the art around it.
Yeah.
Because I think that's really big. That's what grew the cities like Atlanta, what grows cities like New York. It is really the art behind it and the culture aspect behind it. That's why I like, you know, the podcast you're doing, and, you know, Aiden films a lot of music for Jackson artists. He's up in Atlanta now, but, you know, still keeping the scene right. Pothole Paradise has done like 3 shows. Yeah. A lot of people have come out, kind of building a culture. Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to be the type of dude that's like, oh, I want to go become super famous and then bring it back to Jackson. Like, I'm trying to go up with Jackson. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm trying to see everyone succeed at the same time and not be like some, oh, look at all savior that saved Jackson. Like how Mr. Deion Sanders was trying to play himself. Oh, I saved Jack. Y'all are saved now that I'm the coach of the Jackson State football team.
Well, he's gone now.
Whatever.
Well, he definitely, in terms of like, I think Deion was like one of the best things to happen in Jackson for a long time. And then like once he left, it's just kind of been nothing. So, but I don't know. I mean, I totally agree with you on that in terms of bringing it up from, you know, in terms of a cultural aspect. I think that's a really cool idea to kind of to think on. I think it's cool because I'm trying to, you know, bring it, not necessarily, I mean, I like to, you know, influence other people. A big philosophy in my life is that I'd like to give a lot more to people than what I took from people, and it's kind of influencing people to kind of just be themselves and just to kind of do whatever feels free to them, because there's obviously people have barriers and they kind of get held back on doing something because of what someone is going to say about it. And obviously I thought about that at some point, you know, like when I started off, I was like, well, what if I put out this podcast and nobody likes it, you know? And obviously that's like, I go back to the whole procrastination thing. I think that kind of plays a really big role in. Oh, it really does. It's procrastination's like, it's something that I had to grasp recently too, because I was a big procrastinator in school. It kind of, everything that I made a mistake on, and I could probably point it back to procrastination, but it does come from a state of like anxiety. You have too much anxiety and you just don't want to do it. Or like I see a lot of like procrastination with like ADHD, like you physically just cannot do it. And it's such like a glass wall. Like you don't see it there, but it's very much there, and it's very much something that you just need to break through. Yeah. You're going to get a couple glass shards on your fingers, but it's worth it. Yeah, definitely kind of just breaking through the barrier is a pretty big thing, because you know, like I said, I didn't necessarily have a lot of anxiety when I first started doing this, but I was just kind of like, you know, what if it doesn't work, or what if nothing works, and then I'm just kind of back to square one. But like I told you, you gotta learn to kind of break through all that and just stick to yourself and just kind of do what you do. And obviously that seems like what you've been doing, is just kind of sticking to you. And obviously you've been doing a lot of, you know, traveling. You were telling me that you're thinking about Nashville, which I think is pretty great. It's a great city. I love Nashville. I got two of my cousins live in Nashville. So, in terms of like the goal, I mean, obviously everybody's got a goal. I mean, mine is, you know, to reach, you know, 1,000 subs at a certain point in time. I don't know when, but you know, that's obviously one of the goals. So in terms of like a goal for you, what would be kind of something that you're like solely focused on? It could be a number of things, or it could just be one thing specifically.
That's one thing I always struggle with, answering that question. Because yes, I do have a goal, but that goal is so weird and all over the place. It's being the best artist that I can possibly can. Like the main goal is being the best person that I possibly can. But when it comes to music, it's becoming the best artist that I possibly can. And I don't know what that comes with. Yeah. If it comes with 40 years of playing bars, I'm okay with that, to be honest. But I just want to be fulfilled. I just want to fulfill myself that I'm doing the best I possibly can in music. But, I mean, getting away from the corny little, statement quotes.
Yeah.
I'd love a Grammy or two. Shit. I mean, like, being in a movie or, like, outside of that, doing, like, some philanthropy stuff.
Yeah.
Traveling the world. Like, those are just some, normal goals.
Just like a variety of different things.
Just a variety of different, just cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. There's a lot of stuff that I like to do. Like I said, I definitely would like to travel a whole lot. Traveling is something that I've been really wanting to do. Like, there's so many places that I told you this a couple weeks ago. I told you how I was asking you about LA, and I told you that I went out to LA for my first time back at the end of August. And I told you I was out there for like 3 days, and I was just like completely mesmerized by it. Like, it's almost like I was just completely high on LA about the whole aspect of it. And I think it's a pretty cool place. And obviously, living or being out there is definitely up in the air for me in terms of, with what I'd like to do. It's definitely going to be up there. But you said that there's the cultural aspect of LA is a bit different. It's because everybody's kind of trying to do their own thing and just kind of, and I would say that there's probably a decent amount of competition out in LA because kind of everyone's kind of hungry and kind of doing and if one person does it and then the other person doesn't, they're like, oh, well, I was doing the same thing he was doing, and now he's up here and I'm still down here.
As much as competition's looked at as a good thing, it's a great thing in sports. It's a great thing in business. When it comes to art, it's really not that good of a thing,
right?
Because you're just trying to. It starts getting to where artists start copying each other because they're like, this dude's doing good. Oh, I can pick up on what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like in a sport like golf, there's no like plagiarism. It's like Tiger Woods swings like this, so I'm gonna swing like this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And with music or podcasting, you can't do that. So I try to keep myself away from the competition. Reasons I don't really love LA. I mean, there's other reasons. Like, something seems a little off, a little too good to be true in LA. And I know a lot of people talk about it and stuff like that, but just a lot of like weird, random stuff going on. Also, just like a lot of weird people, not weird in like a outworldly type stuff, but just in like, they want to step on someone else's back. Yeah. And that's the big competition thing to get to the next level. So I think, especially for starting off, and I feel like I'm a starting off artist. Yeah. Like, I've, done it for 4 years, but I feel like I'm very, like, starting this. I feel like if you're at that position, a place like Nashville or even just like Jackson, just a really nice place to, see the other competitors, see what they're doing, but kind of get your own perspective on it. Not being influenced by everyone else. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. And kind of just doing what you think is what's best, and I think that's pretty good because obviously you can have a bunch of procrastination and people telling you what you should do, but you're just like, I'm just gonna do what I think sounds best. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And there's a couple stuff I had written down I wanted to ask you about. So you did an article with GQ like last year. I think it was October of 2021. So a little over a year ago. So obviously GQ, they're massive. So I was going to kind of see what it was like and how they approached you and kind of what it was like to do an article with an outlet as GQ. So GQ, I have to remember exactly how that happened, but around that point, I had some music coming out and I had some videos, and it was way after the Barstool stuff, way after the Justin Bieber stuff. So I think the owner of my label, Johnny Shipes, he was just sending out a bunch of stuff. Like, he was sending artists to different like things, and GQ picked up on me. They were like, "Oh, this is sick." I think that's a lot of like kind of the reason I get a lot of like media press or something like that is because like I'm a 15-year-old kid with curly hair that just would look cool on GQ, but I took that opportunity and I answered the questions the best that I can, and it really made me happy. There's people that look at it that are like, damn, like, you got a GQ article, that's the coolest thing in the world. But I'm more like, it's cool that out of everyone, they thought I was cool and they wanted to pick me and they wanted to ask what my life was like. So GQ was sick. Rolling Stone did something. They did actually a piece on Jackson. I don't know if you saw that piece, but someone reached out to me for that, and that was sick too.
Yeah, and the GQ thing that was pretty cool because, like I said, they're a pretty big magazine and media outlet. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So what label are you with? I'm not really 100% certain on that.
It's Cinematic Music Group.
Right.
It's who I signed to originally. It's great guys. It was a very small label owned by this dude named Johnny Shipes. He has other adventures. He owns a donut thing and does this brand called the Smokers Club. Sick dude. But I signed to him, and it was a pretty small label. There was another artist on there called Skywater, and he's been doing very well recently. But basically what happened is Geffen bought it. So Geffen bought, I guess, the rights to the label and the owners. I don't know how buying a business works. So now when I talk about being under labels, I'm under Geffen. I'm kind of in the conglomerates now, to where I have there's Geffen's over me, and then Interscope's over Geffen, and then Universal's over Geffen. So it is a little bit weird, but they've been great. They've helped me a lot. They're kind of less industry than you'd think. They have a lot of smaller artists. They actually did Olivia Rodrigo, and she popped off on TikTok. So it's really cool that I'm with a label that actually knows what's cool now and what to do. Because a lot of the other labels are just trying to put people on billboards and just getting their name on commercials and stuff like that. So I signed a 50-50 deal. So I pretty much have say in what I do, what goes out there for me. I have say in doing this podcast, doing features for other people, what I put in my music. So it's been a blessing, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting because when you hear other artists talk about labels and you understand, you hear it in their songs sometimes, how labels have, a little bit too much control over their artists. So I was going to see kind of, because you said you 50-50 deal, so it sounds like you have a little bit more control over your music and your sound, than the label does. So I was kind of, you more free, I guess. So I was kind of see what it kind of felt to have that kind of control over your music and not having somebody, looking over your shoulder the whole time and saying, oh, well, you don't need to do this. I'd rather you do that.
It's great because, they can, give opinions sometimes and sometimes they give, a little too much opinion for my liking. But, at the end of the day, I make the final decision. Yeah. So when I signed to Cinematic, which, got sold to Geffen, like I explained earlier, I was looking for a label that would give me a 50-50 deal, someone that would let me have control and, just being able to, I don't know how to explain it, kind of have control over what I put out there. So it's been really nice. There is some downsides to it. You don't get a lot of the love as the 90-10 artists do. Because, the labels make more money off of them. But I basically play it as if I'm an independent artist now. Yeah. So I'm posting my TikToks. I'm, reaching out. I'm writing for as many people as I can. I'm collaborating. So I've just been really happy with it. It's the best of both worlds.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our friends over at The Rogue. We'll be right back.
What's up, guys? This episode is brought to you by The Rogue. This is your final destination for men's clothing. For over 50 years, they have been serving up the finest clothing for men in all over the state of Mississippi and all over the country. With their fine selected pieces from Peter Millar, Jack Victor, Martin Dingham, True Grit, and many more. I've known the people at The Rogue for most of my life, and they've become like family to me. They've been making me look good for most of my life, and they're ready to do the same for you. They are gearing up for the holiday season with their brand new collegiate pop-ups where you can shop many different schools like Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Southern Miss, and more. So make sure to go visit them off the 55 Frontage Road in Jackson, Mississippi, or you can go shop online at www.therogue.com. That's spelled ROGUE.com.
All right, so we're back. So to kind of close this out, I just wanted to talk about what it's been like over the years and how everything has changed. And obviously, you've gotten a lot of notoriety from other outlets. Like, obviously, when you hear the words like Justin Bieber and Skrillex, like, that's pretty huge. And so, like, I remember when Bieber posted that when Hazel Eyes came out, you had the filter and everything. What's it kind of been like to see guys like that and Skrillex to just kind of support you and show support to your music?
It's a complete blessing, especially when they hit you in the DMs talking about music, or like some artists just will hit me out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I already have an open DM with them because I've been following them 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's another moment of fulfillment, because it's like, this dude is my inspiration. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I have certain inspirations, but I know people like Justin Bieber inspired growing up. Like, I know just like indirectly a lot of these people that hit me up, I've been inspired by them. If not, I've listened to a lot of their music. So it's being cool. It kind of is like a reflection of what I'm doing. So it's like, these type of artists are hitting me up. That's so sick. And, it's always been good. It's always been fun. Like, when Skrillex hit me, it was a little bit of moment of like endorphins hitting and just like, oh my God, this isn't real. But, talking to him like a person, you learn a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't want to repeat myself, but it's super fulfilling thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so I wanted to ask you what's coming up, what's coming. I know you told me that you're working on the album right now, but what can we expect from you in the near future? So
album into January for sure. It's a project. It originally started as an album, but I'm so self-critique that I was just like, it's only 10 songs. I was like, we're going to call this a project. And it's not super cohesive, but sounds pretty similar. Let me go get my dog real quick.
Keep this in too. It'd be kind of funny. Come on in here, dog. Doggo. Doggo.
And then we're talking about what I got next. So the album is coming out at the end of January. It's probably it's the first time I've ever worked on like a project for Prentiss. So it's super sick. 10 songs. All of them I love. And what's funny about the songs is I all love them for different reasons. There's a song that I love because it's a hit. There's a song I love because it means so much to me. It's just a lot of different variety, and just, I would consider myself just good music, just good stuff to play in the car and, listen to when you're doing homework. And I'm really excited to show the world what I have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's all I got. Prentiss, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much.
The Fur family, I don't know if they're still here, but thank y'all for letting us come in here and use your house. It's been really fun. And you got anything you want?
I don't really have too much to shout out, but shout out the music. It's just Prentiss, Prentiss. Getting that album's coming out. And on Instagram, I occasionally will cook a sandwich. It's another one of my passions.
That was one thing I had written down. I was like, you're the sandwich guy, apparently.
Yeah. So go check out my sandwiches on Instagram if you're a fan of good food.
We'll definitely do a little check out of the sandwiches. All right. Thank you all very much for watching. Make sure to go check out Prentiss on Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, all the stuff. And we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
And then I can do this.
Bam!